Welcome back to the Casey Adams Show. Today I have a very special guest, Brandon Sawalich, the president and CEO of Starkey. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Casey, and happy to be here. This will be fun.
I'm, I'm glad to hear it, man. I know you and the team came out, which I'm very grateful for. And, when I was diving into your story, I was truly inspired because as someone that has interviewed so many great people and diving into the stories, to hear the background and the 30 years that you've put in at Starkey to then your grandmother being in the hearing industry since the 1950s, it just speaks to the depth of industry knowledge and really life expertise that you and the team have brought to the table. So I just wanted to start by saying I'm inspired by your story and very excited to dive in today.
Well, I'm honored that you have done more homework than most I've talked to, and yes, my grandmother started in the industry 1959, and
Wow.
when she opening a hearing aid office when hearing aids were not where they
Yeah.
started for the stigma, and they were for old and you're disabled, and also when women weren't getting couldn't get loans.
Wow.
And, she was up
Yeah.
against a lot, so I, uh, I like to think, and I know I have her DNA to take after her a lot, but
Yeah.
very, very much a lot of respect and admire her.
Yeah, absolutely. And to really just speak at a high level for those who may not know, Starkey, you guys are the number one hearing aid manufacturer here in the US. You guys have been in business since I believe 1967 is when the company started, correct?
Yes, yeah, yes.
Talk to me about where Starkey is today in terms of AI, the products that you guys have, and the slate of, where you spend time as CEO. But really, before we dive into
Yeah.
the story and the business.
I like this. I like starting off like this because hearing aids are cool. And I say hearing aids because you mentioned manufacturer. And that is really, over the decades, what Starkey and others were. We're a technology company now. Manufacturing and others is part of what we do. So we have to have the technology with AI and deep neural processing and other advanced technology that really pushes the edge of what can be done with better hearing. And so that's where we're focusing on is really the technology part, and it's cool. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not the hearing aids that you see in the media or on TV or what you think of. I always like in the movie Up,
Yeah, yeah,
Disney,
of
right? There's
course.
the big piece of bubble gum and it whistles or something. It's no, it's cool stuff, and it's not just for you're not old. It's a superpower.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of things and possibilities we could do.
absolutely. And speaking on like the new product that you guys came out with last year, Edge AI. In
Yes.
this world of AI, you and the team have like this AI word and phrase. This is not new to you and the team. You've been doing that in the technology field since I believe 2017, 2018. What about AI now in 2025 in terms of the timing, in terms of the advancement in technology? How do you think about AI and the technology side of what you're doing versus where you were five-ish year, five,
Yeah.
8 years ago?
When we started, 8 years ago, it was in our business it was incremental improvements. You do little on sound improvements, and I wanted to take a swing at the fences. We wanted, be bold,
Yep.
and hired our new CTO. Not new anymore, but then Achin Bobek from Intel, and in our industry too. There's five hearing aid companies, and we're the only, as you mentioned, U.S. owned and operated. And it's easy to hire, within the industry to get somebody who knows it, and wanted to be different because I could see that the type of technology and talent where we wanted to go and what we could do, because hearing is humanized. It's individual. You hear different than I do. Your ears are different. It's like a thumbprint.
Yep.
And we wanted to, really look at what AI could do then. So we're, I think, on our seventh generation when people weren't talking about
Yeah.
AI. And so now to see it as friendly AI is what I like to call it, because we're not doing big bad,
Yeah.
things that people like to, assume about AI, because it's analyzing what's going on in the environment for you.
Yeah.
So it's really where I see it going. My son is 18, And I'll admit, I liked it too, but all the 22 Marvel movies,
Yep, I love it, love it.
think of it Jarvis.
Yep,
That's where it's going. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a
yeah.
personal assistant.
It's so cool to hear, and I know I could dive into we'll get
Oh,
into all
sure.
the fun, exciting tech stuff because, I love personally, and I believe listeners out there do as well. This all started, as I mentioned, right, 1967. Bill Austin, founder of the company, who I know you've had a very close relationship with over the years. When it comes to the company where it is today, you guys are private, you've been around for decades. Like, bring us back to when you first stepped into the Starkey ecosystem now over 30 years ago. Was this an industry that you were excited about? How did you think about the future of it? Or bring us back
No,
to
no,
young Brandon.
no, no. I didn't want to be in the hearing aids back then. I mean, candidly, and I say this publicly and talk about it because, you're people have a plan. They think they had, and there's more pressure now than ever to like, okay, what am I going to do? I got to, get a roadmap, my goals. You're
Yep.
not going to take time, be patient
Yeah.
because whatever your plan is in your 20s, it's going to change in your 30s. It's going to change in your 40s. I
Yeah.
didn't want to be I didn't think I'd be CEO. I wasn't going to, I'm going to be CEO.
Yeah.
When I started Starkey in 1994, I was an intern, just a summer job. I finished 1 year of college and was going to go in back for the second. Oh, I had a lot of fun because I enjoyed what I was doing because I felt I had a purpose and I had responsibility. And my whole life, I've always, growing up independent and liked, not, you know, whether it's, kickball or wiffle,
Yeah.
pick the player. I like that responsibility. And some say be in charge, whatever. But I enjoyed what I was doing. And so I stayed at Starkey. Bill said, well, why don't you, we had a new product at the time and help out with these classes and training. I did. So I took, I'll go in January of 95. I'll
Okay.
go back. Skip year. Well, 30 skip years later.
Wow.
And, each year's different. And I don't regret. There was a period where I felt still that I needed to go back. But when I got over that was really probably COVID.
Okay.
And right before that, because your priorities become very clear very quick, and then
Yeah.
common sense and what you think
Usually,
you have to do come in play. So, yes, entrepreneur. Bill Austin was an entrepreneur. He didn't get into the industry to start Starkey or build a global company. He got into it to help people, and he wasn't getting the type of service and repairs from other manufacturers. So he started his own repair lab, and
yeah.
then it just grew into the company.
I remember hearing he acquired this hearing lab in the early days. Is that correct?
He
$13,000. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yes, 13,000. He required from a gentleman named Harold Starkey.
Bring us like when because I was curious about that, right? Like when you hear acquisitions out there today, obviously you hear 13 grand. You're like, what did he acquire? Like, what is this origin story of an acquisition, or like, why did it make sense? I was so curious about that.
He It was an ear mold company. So back in the 60s, you had a behind the ear hearing aid, and you had the ear mold piece. And there was a technician that understood and re-engineered. Basically, nowadays he acquired it for IP, is how you would say
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
He re-engineered how to pour a ear mold shell hollow because you would have to pour it solid and then hand grind it out so it could fit into somebody's ear. And the gentleman's name was Paul Jensen, and actually he was my first boss when I
Wow.
was an intern at Starkey. And he acquired for $13,000 because of Paul and how they made ear molds, and the owner was Harold Starkey.
Wow.
And Bill would say it wasn't worth 3,000. I always joke. I tell him your ROI is okay. You got it.
Yes, yes, indeed.
And that was really the beginning. And he kept it, quite frankly, entrepreneurial mindset. It was already LLC. He didn't want to pay the money for a new
Yeah.
company, and he didn't want to name a company after himself, so he kept the name.
Wow. I think it's so cool to hear that, like, in a world of consolidation and like modern M&A and just bringing the listener back to that point in time.
Yeah.
Just so cool to hear. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's so unique. Um, I want to bring something back to today. We were talking about downstairs a little bit that I felt there was alignment from the early days of Starkey. So, and not to go on, the sad note, but it was happening here in Los Angeles as of this recording. We have Palisades Fire, all these fires, and something that you and the team were doing, and I'll let you expand on it in terms of providing hearing aids for people that are like maybe in need or lost them during the fires. I remember reading Bill, the first hearing aid that he ever created, gave it away.
The first hearing aid appointment, he started in the industry in 61
Okay.
to go out and sell hearing aids for his uncle, Fred, in Minneapolis, because Bill was going to go to the university. He was going to the University of Minnesota to be a doctor.
Okay.
And his first appointment to go out, test somebody's hearing, this was his income.
Yeah.
And it was a gentleman, he knows the address, he knows the gentleman's name, everything to this date. And he went in, tested him. The the gentleman needed a hearing aid. He couldn't afford it. Bill gave it to him.
Wow.
He gave it to him for free. Paid for it out of his pocket
Yeah.
to his uncle.
Wow.
And so really that's been, it wasn't even so it was just natural for him. And that's our culture. That's who we are, is giving back and caring. And you mentioned that the fires, it's just watching, it's beyond tragic. It's what we do around the world is giving back. There's business, and then there's philanthropy, right?
Yep.
And really, it's caring. And at Starkey, being privately held, our priorities are what's best for the patient, is best for our customers, is best for Starkey. It's not what's best for the shareholder, best for the invest, that, and that's okay in business because sometimes you have to do that. But other, Hurricane Helene, North Carolina, everything that's going on. We do the same thing, and we do it, when there's, those in need.
Yeah. I find it that there's so much of that philanthropic caring, as you would say, like baked into the culture and DNA
It
of
gives back.
Starkey.
It
Yeah.
comes back. Right. I don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
We sent out and we were doing it, and we have great customers out here in LA that have been helping people, and we've been doing it since it started. And I'm watching on the news and over the weekend, and I'm just like, I gotta say something,
Yeah.
right? And uh, put that out there. And
It's awesome to
I
hear.
didn't, the math and business and what it would cost doesn't matter. It'll come back.
Yeah. That's great to hear. To pivot a little bit in,
Sure.
in, in the stance of business, you mentioned something just now, which I'm curious about. You guys have been around for decades. You emphasize this idea of being privately held and the benefits of that. Why have you guys ever considered going public, or from the business side of private public? Maybe talk to the audience and myself of like what that's looked like over the years. Why have you remained private, and kind of the vision of, excuse me, the company's viewpoint on that?
I could go several approaches here. There's always rumors in our industry and circles, and even sometimes, with employees, that are, oh, they're setting the company up for IPO. They're going to sell the company. I've been, at Starkey for 30 years, and around Bill a little bit longer. There has not been one conversation of any of that.
Wow.
Not one. And there's always speculation, people have opinions, but no, because you lose your soul as a company, who you are, from your values and what the company's about. If we went public or sold the company, but even if you go public, everything changes. I can't instantly decide to put out on X that we're going to replace
Yeah.
all hearing aids out here in the fires,
Yeah.
because you have to go through a process. And Bill is a entrepreneur. And I could say this, kind of joke around, only child, so it's his sandbox. He doesn't want anybody else to play his sandbox.
Yeah.
And he's a very active 82-year-old that is right now in Minneapolis seeing patients
Wow.
right now, and that's what he wants to do. He tells me, I trust you and the team, and if there's anything that you need, come ask, but I don't want to see a P&L. I need to.
Yeah.
I mean, and he says that, it's, I
Yeah.
talked to him the other day about our year and stuff, but he doesn't want to, he's been there, done that.
Yeah.
He's 82. He wants to spend the time that he has, doing what he wants.
I just get the chills even hearing that because when we were talking downstairs before the show, I was telling you a story about my interview with Larry King, and
Yes.
I always like to reference. He was 87 when I interviewed him. I was 19 years
And
old,
the
and
history, the people he talked to, the
yeah,
history, yeah.
not even just that, but just to emphasize your point of Bill, right? Like great people, these leaders,
Mhm.
they are doing it and their passion for life shows up in how they live. And I'm curious to know personally your viewpoint on that, as well as being around Bill and so many great people, customers that you guys work with. I can just say firsthand when I look at someone like such as Larry King, when I interviewed him, he was 87. He didn't need to be sitting down with me. He could be doing anything with his time, but he loved conversations, the art of the question, being a
Right.
great listener, and I felt that so clearly when sitting down with him. And when when you talk about Bill, I feel that same level of
Yeah.
passion and love for what he does every single
You
day
can't
and
you
for the
can't fake
company
it. You
overall.
can't fake that because Larry King is Larry King. He could have came in and out and, thanks for the, discussion. No, he had that was his purpose. It was, you know, getting to probably ask you some questions, getting to know you, the human aspect. That's what it's all
Yeah,
about. And it's about purpose. What I found over the years is your purpose, it's not about being the hearing aid, it's about helping others. Some people have
yeah.
other purpose. It's fine. But what is your purpose? Don't chase the money. Start with your purpose and everything else falls in place.
Yeah.
And other people have other goals and aspirations. That's fine. But why not? How fun is it to wake up every day knowing you're going to have ups and downs, but knowing that you're doing exactly what you enjoy doing and what you should be doing and what you're good at?
It's so great to hear that point, and something I want to dive into this aspect of people.
Mhm.
We talked about it downstairs. I was going to bring it up, but
Sure.
we joked talked about it a little bit. You were, I believe, in your teenage years when you picked up Walter
Cronkite,
Cronkite
yeah.
from the airport. Bring us back to that experience and how that impacted you as someone that's young, being around these influential people and learning from them.
I was did a talk. I think it was on Saturday, and I mentioned Walter Cronkite. Somebody said most of the people. It was a large sorority group, and who's partners with the foundation. Also, probably you know who Walter Cronkite is, but you know, it was that was in 96. So I was 20, 21, and I'm a history buff. I
Yep.
like history,
Yep.
and the books I read are people that have been there, done that.
Yep.
And
As you can see around here,
yeah,
quite the biography.
biographies,
There's myself.
autobiographies, world history, American history. And I know there's books that, kind of it's a business for some and ideas, sure, it takes one or two, but there's very few people that have kind of Larry King, you mentioned, Walter Cronkite. Think of all the leaders that have over the decades have had an opportunity to do the same thing.
Mhm.
And I knew with Walter Cronkite, American presidents.
Yep.
And I talked to him, I think it was from um, Kennedy, Kennedy forward
Wow.
about each one, asked him
Wow.
questions. And he was the nicest man. I mean, he told me also that he goes, most people that don't know this, and it's in his book, but he almost took a job in Minneapolis as a news anchor.
Wow.
And then somebody from CBS called and that's how I got to CBS in New York. But he goes, I almost did not make it to New York because I was going to take a job here in Minneapolis.
Wow.
So I was 21, and you know what? I was a gopher for the day, I
Hmm.
want to call it, but I got to spend the day with somebody that could help or make me better based on the questions or just interest. I didn't look at it like, well, this is beneath me. What am I doing? No, it's just helping. I got to
Absolutely.
spend the day with an icon,
Yeah.
and
I,
there's
I relate to that.
there's very few of those left, and you know most people don't know this. I'll give you some insight. Is um, Queen Elizabeth last couple months before she passed wore our product.
Wow.
They'll fit her.
Wow.
And you think
That's
of
incredible.
from Walter Cronkite to Queen Elizabeth, how many more people that span that generation that knows or have met people that could talk about those discussions?
Yeah. The business of Starkey and the product itself, it's one thing to learn from someone, get to know them, but your product from the queen to the,
Yeah.
young individual that may have lost his hearing, and I don't say this lightly, it truly is life altering and life changing. I mean, I heard you talk about with Dave Asprey just in terms of how impactful hearing is to the brain and how it can prevent like diseases or dementia.
Mhm.
So when it comes to hearing itself and the importance of it, the products that you bring to customers, like I wanted to really dive into this because when you were talking about it in terms of the brain activity and the importance of it outside of just how involved it is in terms of one of your senses, um, talk to me about hearing overall and maybe some of the things people may not know about the importance of it to the brain.
So, hearing, if you think of the five senses, it's connecting people with people. Helen Keller once said that, if you had to choose between, hearing connects people. And it also feeds, now, as you mentioned earlier, Alzheimer's, um, overall engagement and mental health.
Yep.
And it feeds the brain. So when you have a hearing loss, over time you start forgetting sounds, whatever it might be. And you also draw inward. Loneliness, it's not talked about because you're not going to ask questions. You just start disengaging. And what we do is bring people together. And so whether you're 14, 20, 40, or 70 years old, you need to hear. You need to be engaged for society, for life, for your family, your profession. Go down the list. And it's not in the the stigma that we talk about is, you know, people, you didn't even know I was wearing this, but I wear it proudly because I want people to ask me about
Yeah.
it. They're so small, discreet. And, years ago they were much bigger, and that's what
Wow.
is in people's minds.
Absolutely.
It's not about that. This is the
Can you hold it up
vehicle.
real quick just for the camera so we can see it?
This is the vehicle. It's the technology and what it does and helps you perform. My aspiration is that the products and the technology is the best. I want to be, in 5 years, I want to, they say I want to be 10 years ahead.
Yeah.
I don't feel Starkey needs to compete. We lead. And I want people to be the best they could be each and every day because that helps the world, society. Is as corny and hokey as that sounds, it's true because
Mhm.
there's more good than bad. I've been on, we talk about here in the US and globally, there's 450 million with hearing loss, aging population. By 2050, they predict 900 million, let's
Oh my
say. And
goodness.
and so people are like, "Oh, you're in a good business." Well, if we could help people up front too with noise-reduced hearing loss and protection, hearing protection, but also help people that can't afford hearing aids. And Starkey has the Starkey Hearing Foundation, and I've been on many missions since 1997 and in Africa. And you talk about a purpose, and when you see somebody here for the first time,
What they call it, a hearing smile?
yeah, the hearing smile, you see that, and but you see it in their eyes
Mm.
first, and it's literally somebody that's could be 20-year-old, 10-year-old, or it could be a mother that's never heard sound because she had an
Wow.
infection at the age of 2 or whatever it might be, and has never heard her child's voice, and you're sitting there, and we put a hearing aid on, and people think,
That is
they're deaf or
yeah.
and hearing aids and deafness, if you're deaf, you're deaf, right?
Mhm.
It's hearing aids aren't about that. And we put a hearing aids on somebody, and you turn that on, and they hear their child's voice, or they say, hear mama or dad. I don't care who you are, how
Wow.
tough. It's one of those. I'm not crying. You're crying. What do you
Yeah.
think? I mean, it's just everybody. It's emotional
Yeah.
because it's a light bulb. It's like
Yep.
you see
I
that in
can't
their
even
eyes.
imagine
It's
that.
addicting. And
Wow.
you want to keep doing that. And that's what they do on the foundation. We see it, also on the business side. So what we do is purposeful work. And I
Absolutely.
have the honor of, yes, CEO and president, but I work for 5,000 people is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
They will tell me if I'm doing the big
Yeah,
job
oh,
or not.
God, absolutely. We just hearing what you said as well. I know I interjected a little bit, but you call it the hearing smile.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe, I think the first time I saw a video, I don't know if you know the content creator Mr. Beast. I think he did this video where he's like helping people
Sure.
hear, and he donated a bunch of hearing aids. I remember seeing a clip about that, um, and just how impactful that moment
Mhm.
is. And when people experience that, what are some of the just I don't even know how to describe it. Just you hear for the first time, you
You're
look at a company
scared.
like
You're
sorry,
scared
yeah,
at
like,
first.
talk to me about that. Like
Yeah, I
the
mean, it really
interactions.
it's a range of emotions that happen in seconds, and then they're calming down, trying to comprehend.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I work with a lot of great people at Starkey, um, our team of audiologists, and our chief health officer, Dr. Dave Fabry, and who's seen it all too. And it's really when they hear that sound, it's fear for they don't know, and you see that, but then they figure, and it's just like I'm okay. I'm not disabled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've been told
Absolutely.
their whole lives, and I'm talking other countries, and there's a whole different situations, but they're told I've been um in China years ago, and there was a sign for it was a deaf school, deaf, dumb, and defective.
Mm.
Deaf, how would you like to be labeled? I mean, no, and for whatever, no, it's a
Yep.
hearing loss. It's just somebody
Yeah.
that, and it could, like I said, a simple infection they didn't have medication
Yeah.
for, or whatever it might be. It's just
It
a hearing loss.
hearing that is it's so interesting because I feel that myself and probably most people growing up, I think, oh maybe my grandfather needs a hearing aid, or maybe
Yeah,
like I'm not even gonna think about the idea of it until it's maybe too late. And I was gonna bring up, I wear the Whoop,
yeah.
and I've been wearing it for the last 2 years. But in this era of wearables and like proactive care, I heard you talk about how can hearing aids be impactful for CEOs to stay on top of their game, to be more effective? What do you mean by that when you say that? In terms of how can hearing aids play a role in not just helping people who may have hearing loss, but helping people be more effective in the road of AI, and how things like translation and all these different factors come into play?
So if you think about it now, hearing aids are really first time users, average age around, let's say 65 years of
Mhm,
age. But most people, let's say you're 40, I have a mild hearing loss.
mhm.
I talked, there's one in six teenagers right now that have hearing loss, whether it's loud sounds and such. It's a no pun intended, but it's a quiet pandemic, and you can't get that back. And so the the point is there's other health issues that are more urgent for everyone, and whether hearing loss you're not going to die from. And
Yeah,
so, okay, it's the stigma. I'm going to be old. I don't need one till I'm. No, for me, using myself as an example, it's my superpower. It's something where if I'm in a meeting, I can hear just a little bit better. It's more
yeah.
crisp, sharp, also optimized. I could take phone calls. I can listen to music.
So good.
We also have 72 language that we could translate. We have fall detection. We have, the ear is the new wrist, as I've said. You've
Mhm.
probably seen where track your steps, your
You
activity.
check your steps from the hearing aids?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah. Because I mean, the ear is really one of the ultimate pathways to overall health and wellness.
Mhm.
We can do heart rate. We can do blood oxygen. You can do a lot of
Wow,
different things. But the
that is
problem is
incredible.
I don't want it to be a Swiss Army knife where you confuse a lot of
Yeah,
people.
of
You got to
course.
keep it focused and what are people going to use? Because if you look forward, there's also detection using AI, you mentioned,
Yeah.
on voice recognition for moods, Is somebody depressed?
Yeah.
Is somebody, what type of, for those who are caring for loved ones, can use, with the patient's permission, of course, that, how is the mood and how is the overall state of mind of mom, dad, grandparent, or whatever.
Yeah. It's so cool to hear. Like,
Well,
as
yeah,
someone that
it's
is
cool. What I say,
it's
cool
I
stuff.
mean,
It's
yeah,
cool.
like the future of what it is, and the inflection point that we are
Right.
at, it's such a cool era.
It's not a microphone and a receiver where you're just amplifying sound.
Yeah.
It's a personalized computer inside your ear,
Wow.
and it's analyzing.
Yeah, I have before we get all, I'll circle back to the tech stuff, but something that I want to talk about is just all things leadership. You know, as
Yes.
CEO, and something just to credit Larry King and even like my main company today. So my company is called Listener.com, and a lot of people may not know, but I told you about Larry King, like one of the
Mm.
most impactful interviews in my life. And during that interview, a quote that not only stuck with me as an individual, but truly influenced like how I'm continuing to do this show is he has a quote. He says, "I've never learned anything while I was talking. Be a great listener." And that quote went so far to inspire how I go about my show in terms of not having questions that I'm holding and obviously just being a true listener in conversation from this podcast, everyday life. And just to take it one step further, led to the name of my company, right?
Right.
Listener.com, and chasing down this domain for probably 10 months. And I want to ask you, it's one thing to hear, it's another to be a listener. And I want to ask you, what does being a great listener mean to you as a CEO and also as a leader?
I've had to, in full candor, you get better over the years as you mature. And as I tell as a leader, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fail more than you succeed. And we started that from when we tried to walk, you fall down, get up. And, Bill has provided me with a lot of, I'll say, room to make some mistakes. I like to think I provide. There's times as a leader, you think you have to, I, I'm a natural fixer, right? So I like to fix things.
Yeah.
And as I've learned over the last 10 plus years is slowing down and listening more because I got to watch myself from a child, like telling or doing or giving a solution instead of slowing down and listening. And that's really where, being a CEO is asking the questions, but then listen carefully to the response on whether it's strategy, customer need, or their own personal goals. Because as a leader, I talk about this all the time. Is everybody has their own definition? I mean,
Yeah.
leadership is broad,
Absolutely.
innovation, and I mean, there's
Yeah.
broad. In what kind of leader are you? And for me, is I don't want to, kind of I would say servant leadership, visionary. I look up and out, but there isn't anything I wouldn't do that I would ask somebody else to do. I
Yeah.
lead from the front and try and bring the best out of people as I can.
On leadership and even just yeah, your role over the last 30 years has changed so much. I would love to spend time with, what does your day to day, week to week look like, and how does it change over the years of now being CEO?
Organized chaos. And I say I say that where you you have to. I believe this is I know who I am and I know my how think and personality and where I can move fast. I can drag my feet. And I think my team now knows if I'm dragging my feet, I'm thinking or just waiting. Because I'm instinctively, I think, or no, I'm good on timing and some things. Um, but as CEO, it's weird because I didn't ask to be CEO. I mean, of course, I'm not CEO, but leave.
Yeah, of course.
Bill approached me because he's had the title since 1967. There's no way, and I was, I respect that, and him and even president, I didn't ask for he asked me, and he goes, "You're the obvious one," and I know that if I don't do a good job, I don't deserve that. And so as CEO, when I think it was 2020, right after COVID, he asked and or told me, I said, he goes, "I would like for you to be CEO, take this title. This is
Wow.
what's the right thing." And it hit me. Well, and we kind of joked around because I was uncomfortable not doing it, but having that because that's
Yes,
sacred. And
absolutely.
okay, okay. And then when it was announced and put out, because for people to know, because I don't want to make a big deal about it. There was a big some party about it.
Yeah.
I was surprised the weight that didn't expect. And what I mean by that, CEO, how the people treated me differently with that title, not in a bad way, but the sir or open the door. I'm like, just everybody come,
Yeah.
but then also because of how they see you out of the respect, the um the expectation that you kind of in your head, not pressure is not the right word, like over
Yeah,
the top type thing. And
absolutely.
I don't feel sorry. It's just okay. It's let's do this.
Yeah,
'Cause I didn't think anything about it because for me, I just went in every day and did my job.
absolutely. I find that so inspiring and something that I wanted to ensure we touch on is, in this world of social media, and, for context, I know you said it earlier, I'm 24, and, in the world of social media, things move so fast,
Oh,
technology, AI, to think about longevity, whether in a career or as a founder and as an entrepreneur, like you've put in your time to not only be deserving, but to learn what it takes and to have the experience. And I wanted to spend time on this thought of what is your advice to young entrepreneurs, leaders in their careers when it comes to getting ready to make that jump in terms of the next role, the higher title, because you've seen it all. When I look at your LinkedIn, and I think there was a similar story of, I think the current CEO of Nike, he was an intern 30 years ago and now he's the CEO. And I, I, I find that in very parallel, and it's such a rare thing to see. And when I was, getting familiar with your story, I find it so inspiring. So back to the question of what's your advice to young founders and also young leaders when it comes to thinking about their career and taking those steps up over time in terms of titles and
don't
experience.
get enamored with a title. Be patient, make decisions, embrace failure, embrace change, because what is now, just make yourself better. Because as I mentioned earlier, I think I say this a lot, the one quote from Mike Tyson that is very relevant is everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. I've had a lot of plans and I got punched in the face and you learn from it and it's okay. So, for entrepreneurs and, really be patient. Don't, because social media and you see a lot of the books and all the posts, there's so much more pressure now to be successful and, you know, millionaire and all this sooner, no, be sustainable.
Mm,
Take the long road. Make decisions. Don't be indecisive. And if you fail, fail fast. Learn from it and move on.
yeah, it's incredible. I love that. Um, Speaking on making decisions and also like speaking to the youth, something that I love learning about, which is your son and his decision to be this incredible NASCAR driver. As a father, how does this feel to have your son in this world of NASCAR and really making a decision to be in this very just exhilarating space?
Well, it's surreal. I've got two great kids. Amelia's 22, William's 18, and Amelia's, his biggest fan and
Yep.
was fan number one. And I thought it was, he started karting, and quite frankly, I had people, how do you get into it? The movie Cars.
Yeah.
I've seen that thing more times than probably any movies since he was 2 years old. and he just always loved playing with Matchbox car, you name it. And watching him now, it's a talent. And I was just with Coach Joe Gibbs 2 days ago, and I always love again picking on
Yeah.
leadership and talking to him about the teamwork and everything, and what he did. And you've got to have the talent. He's with a great organization. But I was texting him on the way over to see you, and he's got Daytona's in less than a month. And I'm like, this is your year,
Wow.
first rookie in Xfinity, and you've got the commit, you got the talent, now the commitment, you got
Yeah.
this, and it's as a dad, and that's what I have to be. I'm dad.
Yeah.
It's and because he's got great people around him, Kevin Harvick and others that is giving him advice and mentoring. As a dad, you always I've learned the social media stuff. Everybody has an opinion. We're
Indeed.
18, 17 now 18-year-old, and I trust him. He's confident. He's his superpower is his emotional intelligence. He's just focused, and he can't. He's just. I always like James Dean is why even when he I coached him. One thing I did, even though as busy as coached baseball, and he wanted the ball. He wanted to pitch,
Yeah.
and he's just always even keel, and he's humble, and so I'm a his dad and fan, but it's you worry about everybody else is what happens
Yeah.
because anything could happen in a split
That's like
second.
a
But the equipment and everything is so safe and proud. But what I appreciate is like, gosh, what I was doing at 18, I can't imagine. I mean, the pressure now, you know, that interviews and autographs and all this other stuff
That's
comes with
so
it.
cool.
Eh, yeah, proud dad. But
Absolutely.
sure, you get the nerves, but you gotta settle it
Uh,
down.
yeah, no, it's so cool. Even to the point of like decisiveness. It's like his based on what I was understanding, he knew what he wanted. It's his talent's obviously there, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah,
So
he's got to develop that. And
yeah,
he goes, Dad, when I'm out there, things just slow down. Like at 160 miles an hour, just
wow,
mine's angle. He's just,
yeah,
it's fun to watch.
absolutely, very cool. Um, I wanted to come back to the future of Starkey. You brought up Jarvis and
Mhm.
the future of that, and I think we're in this era. At least personally, I've felt the last year when and obviously a lot goes behind the scene years to get to this point, but when you see things like what SpaceX was doing with landing reusable rockets to robotics to then like, hearing aid and technology that can come down to translating in real time. When you think about the future of Starkey, what excites you the most over these next 5, 10 years? I know we've touched on it here and there, but to really dive into the future of technology and the innovation that you plan for, but also the stuff that people may not even think about in terms of like what's possible in the future.
Well, right now you know, we're a class 2 medical device, a hearing aid.
Of course.
When I look ahead, I think of performance. And it doesn't matter if you're, teenager all the way up. What can we do to help not just with hearing, but as an overall health and wellness personal assistant? And I think the possibilities are endless because it's a world of connectivity. So think of instant translations. Translation. That's the biggest barrier between people right now. We have it now, and there's a little, um, we have a intermediate device, couple second delay, but it's very fast. But what if I'm just talking to you right now, or anybody if I'm traveling and it's instantly
Mhm.
telling me and translating into what I need, and I could have a real conversation with somebody. Or what if it's telling me other biometrics on my health that I could do something with, right? I'm trying to get in the whoop. My son, for
Okay.
him, he's got the whoop. I'm like, what am I going to do with all this? And really, it comes down to for me,
Yeah.
I need to get in the gym. But I have no choice. Climbing. We're going to climb Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
I did that in 2015. when I was 40. So for my 50th
Oh my
in
gosh.
December, I'm going to do it.
Very
But,
exciting.
there's so much information, but people want to be their best selves personally, but everybody wants an edge, don't pun intended, but they want an edge in whether it's racing, because we're working with sports and other stuff
Mhm.
on what could be the possibilities are. And it could be in a boardroom or whatever business.
Yeah,
Everybody wants that advantage. Everybody wants
absolutely.
that advantage. So it really comes about giving that performance on hearing, or think about this, the possibility. Minnesota Vikings are playing the Rams tonight in Arizona. Okay. Crowd noise and all that. What if offensive linemen had devices that drowned out the background noise and they could hear the quarterback?
Wow.
So, I mean, that's one of
Interesting.
just a what
Yeah,
if, right?
absolutely.
So there's a lot of different things that we can do with hearing of the five senses that we know that the ear better than anybody. And at the end of the day, too, the ear is in charge, the patient's in charge. What can we do to help them?
Mhm. Speaking of, noise canceling, I think as a society, at least from my own experience, when when Apple came out with noise cancellation in the AirPods, I know for me that was like, whoa, that's really cool. And then I want to get your take on their what was the AirPod is a confirmed medical device that they
It's an
say
it's a
about their hearing.
over the counter hearing it registered device. So that was new in the last 2 years, official new category.
Hmm.
And
What's your viewpoint on that?
frankly, over the counter has been around for decades. But it's a little different now. To me, what Apple's doing, I applaud them. We partner with Apple on our prescriptive and premium products from Starkey. Um, what they're doing now, I applaud because it brings awareness
Hmm.
to people that, okay, let's make it cooler, right? And it's a f- it's a feature of one of their main products,
Yeah.
and wherever they decide to go. And so what it does is, and not just Apple, but others, it's many others provide an over the counter type product. And for some, it's unfortunately it gives hearing aids a bad rap too. Not Apple, but other cheap products that people are just trying to get some revenue.
Yeah.
So they throw it in their drawer and they think it's a hearing aid. It causes confusion. But what it does is say somebody has they raise their hand and say, I have a hearing loss, I have a need.
Yeah.
And where it can go is kind of that advancement, right? Is something that's personalized for you, and it's not a feature, because we have to make complex simple, and we have to design, engineer, manufacture, and deliver a product that somebody forgets they're wearing for 14 hours a day
Mm. Yeah.
and fits comfortably, because
Yeah.
anything in your
Absolutely.
ear, like with any type of AirPod type device, you kind of feel it.
Yeah.
Battery life, we have the best battery life, lithium ion, it for 51 hours
Wow.
and all day. And also the other thing that's or not thought about is ours is 100% waterproof, and you're dealing with hairspray, sweat,
Yeah.
everything, and it's got to perform and get around all of the other items that people think, and that's what we're good at.
That's it's really to think about, like, creating a product that you just have to feel like it's not even there, like, to be
Right.
that level of, like, user
It's like
experience.
invisible. It's
Yes,
just transparent.
exactly.
It's got to be transparent.
That's so
And
yeah.
I forgot I was wearing mine until I just said that word.
Yeah.
To be honest, because that's the
Love
thing,
it.
is it's not about the device, it's the fit, the feel,
Yeah.
and that's the overrated part. That's why there's hearing healthcare providers that are good at you know customizing that fit
Yeah.
to the ear. Because like I said, every ear is different.
When was the first time you put in a hearing aid yourself, and what was that experience like for
Oh
you?
I built a hearing. I mean, part of my internship stuff. I mean, back in the '90s, it was more uh, not it, I felt plugged, to be honest with you. It was different.
Yeah.
It was different time, different era, because custom hearing aids were 80% of the market. Starkey was the best. So then you have to vent, and I probably didn't build the hearing aid right. Now it's flipped, where over 80% are the behind the ear, tiny
Mhm.
little ricks. And
So
Starkey
small.
is the best out of the 5, and really the only ones that still continues the art of a custom product, because sometimes people want a custom hearing aid that's way down in the ear because you get the pinna
Mhm.
effect. Where right now the microphone's up here. And so there's certain situations where that's still very viable. Some people are vain and they don't want, like me. I know my hair might cover it, but uh,
I
you
have
know,
some extra over here.
well, you're good.
Yeah,
Neither
yeah.
do I. But some people want the what we call a completely in canal, a very small.
Yeah.
And so you kind of see it on movies. They mock it up where like somebody's talking and they pull it out. But Starkey's the only one that really continues to master that art. But we're still now a complete technology company, and they can pick whatever style that it wants to come.
Yeah. Very cool. A couple more questions before we wrap up here. One thing that I'm curious about, which if people made it this far and they're still listening, in terms of everyday hearing health, what can people do leaving this interview for themselves, but maybe even for their family when it comes to being proactive about hearing health, when it comes to concerts, when it comes to headphones that you're wearing? What are some maybe 3 takeaways that someone can walk away from this conversation about understanding hearing health and being practical about it?
If you think you have a problem or missing out, meaning, and it's usually a spouse or a
Yeah.
family or loved one, just get a hearing test. It takes 5 6 minutes. It's not a big thing because what you can gain, and really how we're being very positive and thinking forward on hearing health. It's not about hearing loss. It's what's the hearing gain? How can I improve my performance? And get a hearing test. And if you need help, do something about it because they're cool. There's not what you think they are. And you will see what you're missing out. Because the other thing that people don't realize with hearing else is balance. Because if you're hearing just you don't think about it, but when you walk, you hear your feet on the floor. So when and this happens a lot in yes the older demographic, but balance and falls issues. Also surroundings, being self-aware, driving, I mean, you name it, because you forget, "Oh, I'm not going to die. I'll be fine. I'll manage." Doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Just go get a hearing test, just to get it checked out, or even during a routine physical.
Yeah.
And you go to, Starkey.com where, you know, we sell, to hearing healthcare professionals. So I'm saying that website for really education
Yeah.
because,
Absolutely.
it's understand what good hearing health could do for you and perform better.
On the note of education around Starkey, before we wrap up here, I want to end with the question of when you think about the future, both personally and on behalf of Starkey, of course, what excites you the most as you think about the future, about what the products, the customers, and overall being in this role as CEO?
I don't have a box I have to stay in. And what I mean by that, I got Starkey has great talent and the culture and the people are there because they want to be. The possibilities are endless because what we can do with where we're at with technology, we're talking with other companies and it's really about the technology and the software and the app and other things that could help people get connected. We're just talking about phones now, and we're talking about
Yeah.
music and everything. I mean, then TVs, you could a lot of different ways
Yeah.
that can help people do better in their jobs and in their with their families. And for me personally, what I'm enjoying more, yes, I'm kind of you know, I don't know. I like to think about what could be right. Not always right by any
Of
means.
course.
Probably frustrate the hell out of my team, but Starkey's got a great team. Um, is what could be, but also sharing my experience because
Absolutely.
I've been at the tops of the mountain, no pun intended with Kilimanjaro, but down and walk through a lot of issues, and it's sharing that experience because I see now the people that we bring on and um, whatever generation we're in, the 20s, generations, all this stuff. A lot of bright minds. Attention spans are shorter, which is okay. Optimize, but be patient
I
and just sharing those experiences.
love it. Doing things like this. I know that going on
Because I've
we
been there. I've been there
yeah,
like, I want this, or I want that office,
yeah,
I want this job. It does, the title does not define you. It's the work you do. A title is that. And you have to earn it and you have to perform, help others.
very well said. And on that note, Brandon, I just want to say once again, I know I said it at the beginning, but I truly appreciate you so much for taking the time to come out
Thank you.
here. I'm inspired by your personal story, the company, what you guys have done, and of course, what's to come.
Well, I appreciate you because um, great memory on your homework. You've asked me a lot of questions that many haven't, and your interest in genuine. So thank you for what you're doing.
I
'Cause
appreciate that.
you're doing exactly what I just mentioned, sharing experience, and I appreciate telling my story.
Of course, thank you. And last but not least, for people to connect with you, to learn more about Starkey, where's the best place for everyone to stay in touch, learn more overall about Starkey?
Starkey.com, and then my social media. It's with my last name. It's pretty easy. Brandon Sawalich. You'll find me. So
Perfect. I'll be sure to link it down below.
okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Casey.